Everybody, welcome in the Red Zone. Shaun and Mike here, and it's week 13 for college football. It's also Thanksgiving week, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. This would normally be a rivalry week coming up, and there are some rivalry games being played this week.
Technically, it is rivalry
week. But there are games that are, Ohio State's not playing Michigan this week, which would normally be the game. So, and then we've already had Bedlam, so some things are a little different this year, obviously. So let's talk just quickly about last week, week 12, some games that happened. So I went 10-6 last week. You went 8-8. Of course, Indiana made a game of it with Ohio State. It was everything I thought it would be, and I've been saying it, and I've been ripped for it. The Buckeyes don't have a defense to win a national championship.
Yeah.
They don't, and there's a lot of holes there, especially in the secondary. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have talent. They have elite talent. They have speed. They have all of that. But it takes more than just talent to be able to win and to play great defense or to play great offense. It takes chemistry as well.
OU 2015 through 2018.
It just you have
19.
You have to have the right schemes. You have to have guys who have the mental capacity, who can handle the complexity of college football, because it's not as simple as high school. And so,
they didn't get time in spring. I mean, I know nobody did, but there's still other teams out there that have been together longer that are more have more continuity on their defense. And defense is, to me, I think defense is probably a little bit harder in the college game to try to learn when you first get there. And with Ohio State, I know guys usually rise up through the ranks. They don't typically play freshmen and sophomores, especially in the defensive back. There's always, a junior or senior that's kind of back there. But it's tough when they don't get the spring or summer to work on it, especially with Kerry Coombs being back.
Sure.
I mean, there wasn't that time to
He
gel.
is a defensive back genius, but as defensive coordinator, he's not with them exclusively, and it shows in that secondary. Okay, let's move on to Bedlam. I said last week that OU was going to blow them out of the water and it wouldn't even be close. Shaun took Oklahoma State. You took Oklahoma State, but
I know.
Either way,
I even on last week's show, I explained every reason why Oklahoma would cover, and Oklahoma State just coughed up the ball. I mean, they did exactly what I said they can't do, because Oklahoma is starting to figure out how to get the ball back on defense, and they did that.
Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, just because of his lack of success against OU, he reminds me of John Cooper at Ohio State. John Cooper could win any game all year long, but he could not beat Michigan.
Yeah.
And so Mike Gundy's kind of the same way. I mean, Oklahoma State can beat just about anybody at any time. They can't get over the hump. They can't beat OU.
Mike Gundy must have pictures of somebody, high up in the offices there in the athletic department.
Yeah. Some other games.
Michigan-Rutgers game was crazy.
Yeah,
all the way down.
I have to admit I didn't watch any of that because there were some other games on. I didn't see any of that game.
Well, I watched it. It was crazy, to say the least. The
one I will point out real quick, Northwestern beats Wisconsin. I called that one, said that one would happen.
Yeah.
Northwestern was my pick to win the West. They've got a ton of experience. They are just a great all-around football team.
Yeah.
And that showed this week. Was there any other games?
Trying to think.
Do you remember
which ones I kind of peeked in on? Purdue, Minnesota was pretty exciting. That was close. Purdue had a chance there at the end.
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina came back and beat Appalachian State. We were pretty happy
NC State beats Liberty, but they don't cover. But they still won the game.
Yeah.
So Liberty drops out of the top 25.
LSU beat Arkansas. We took Arkansas, or at least I did. I don't remember.
We both did. But now when we picked that game, Arkansas was a 2.5-point favorite. That moved to a 1.5-point favorite in LSU's favor by kickoff.
Yeah. So. And who saw UCLA hanging with Oregon? I mean, Oregon's defense, I've been high on them since the start.
But I took UCLA and the points because I watched UCLA against Cal in that Sunday game.
Well, and UCLA...
And you didn't get to see it, so...
what's his name? I may be butchering his name. Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Yeah, that's it.
The quarterback for UCLA went down with an injury. Mm-hmm. Second quarterback comes up and plays a lights-out game, and looks like the future of UCLA football.
And I think I mentioned it last week. The reason I took UCLA in the points last week is because I'm not impressed with Oregon's defense.
Yeah.
And Cristobal is an old school coach that just runs the ball first. So it's hard for Oregon to get out because they're not this old fashioned spread and throw the ball 50 times a game. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
They might throw 20 times a game. So if it's a bigger spread, it's going to be harder for them to cover that, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, two defenses I just thought would be way better this year. Actually, kind of three if you throw Ohio State in there.
Yeah.
Florida and Oregon. Just I had really high expectations for all of those defenses, and they're just kind of maybe that's what we're seeing with COVID. I mean, maybe it's just nationwide across the country was just the defenses aren't able to gel together, and
Florida didn't cover against Vanderbilt, so that was a shocker.
Yeah.
Okay, and last thing until we get into this week, apparently I put a post up on our YouTube channel. And
it's gaining some fire on Twitter.
It's gaining
right
fire,
now.
and some Buckeye fans are not too happy with me right now. So, I saw a post where Brady Quinn for the Fox Crew did not have Ohio State in the top 4. Got me thinking about it, and I thought, well, when I consider it, I'm like, I don't think they are in the top 4.
Yeah.
So I put out my top 10, and I have Ohio State at 5, and I have Florida in there, and I guess that has really stirred some feathers.
We could make a mean tweets portion just off of that thread alone.
Hey,
but hey,
whatever.
We have our opinions. I mean, I'm not always kind on Oklahoma. So, he's a Buckeye fan. I'm an Oklahoma Sooner fan, and we like doing what we do.
I'm a Buckeye fan, but I'm not one of these people that have the Homer beer goggles on. Yeah. We're going to win every game by 40 points. I look at it realistically, and you have to. If you're making picks against the spread and you're being realistic about it and you want to give people what you think is sound advice, you got to look at it objectively, and that's what I do.
And this dude grew up in Chillicothe, Ohio, so before you start, I've
been a Buckeye my whole life. So, even though I live in Oklahoma City, I grew up in Ohio. I went to Ohio University. So I didn't get to go to Ohio State because it was too expensive, and I had to pay my own way through college. So there you go.
He's a Bobcat.
I'm Bobcat, yeah. So, okay, let's get into week 13. We've got 25 games I think we're picking here. We had one change up real quick because games are already getting canceled.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt was supposed to play Tennessee. That game got postponed. Missouri was supposed to play Arkansas. That game got postponed. So since Missouri and Vanderbilt got postponed earlier in the year, Vanderbilt is now playing at Missouri. And so we will pick that game a little bit later on. So the two games we thought we were going to pick they've gotten meshed together basically. So
did we have Washington State on
that one? That one got canceled as I was making the list. Okay. So I took it off. Yeah.
I was gonna say if we had that up there, that has. I
originally
had
that on our list, but that got postponed or canceled. So I guess with Pac-12 it's canceled because they don't have any room to make up. So although Pac-12 has announced that they are going to let Pac-12 teams schedule non-conference games if their game gets canceled. So
BYU.
I mean, hey, why not? They're looking for teams to play.
I know. I say that because BYU put out a tweet that said, "We'll play anybody," or maybe it was just a quote that said, "We'll play anybody, anytime, any place." Washington reached out to BYU saying we'd like to play and make up this game. Well, BYU comes out and says, we'd like to wait till after the CFP rankings come out just to see if we need it.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, and with their schedule, though, I mean, playing North Alabama and they need to play a Power 5 team.
They do.
They need to. I mean, they shouldn't have waited until after the rankings.
Beating Texas State's not going to cut it this year.
It's not. So BYU, if you want to have a chance to play us, I think you're a great team. I'm not knocking you at all, but you've got to beat somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, more than what you've won so far, if you want to have any chance at that. So
yeah, it's the UCF argument all over again.
Yeah. I honestly would love to see it wouldn't happen, but I'd love to see at the end of the season if you have the dominant 3, and then if Cincinnati was in the American Conference Championship, just get out of it, go play BYU, and it's a de facto play-in game.
A play-in, yeah.
Yeah, BYU Cincinnati, winner gets in at 4th spot. I mean, that would be pretty awesome, but it won't happen. Anyway, let's get to week 13. We have a lot of games to pick, so we got to get through all this. And new thing this week, we've had people commenting, our viewers, you guys, that you wanted to see the matchups on the screen behind us. So that's what we're going to do this week. It took me forever to make these graphics, forever. So I don't know if we'll keep doing it, but we'll just see how it plays out this week. So, and we'll see if you like it.
Still no producer back behind the camera.
Nope, still just us. And yeah, ton of work goes into making these videos and doing them at a higher quality than what most people do on
I
YouTube.
just show up with my brain. And
Okay, let's get to the first one. And the first matchup is Iowa State is taking on Texas. Texas is a 1.5-point favorite. Shaun, what do you think about this?
This is a tough one. 1.5 points, that's not a very big number here. To me, I think it is the right number because both teams, they've played really well at times. They've played pretty poorly at times. But Iowa State has more to play for at this point. I mean, it would take a catastrophic just nosedive for Texas to get in the Big 12 championship at this point. So Iowa State beat Texas last season 23-21. And this is just one more step closer to a Big 12 championship game. Texas has won 3 straight games. 2 of those were a one-score game. And this could possibly be one of the better games this season, or this week, not this season. I think Iowa State covers here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Texas has just kind of been surviving. They've had a little bit of luck along the way. They were down by 2 scores against Texas Tech, and they managed, with the onside, they managed to tie the game and go to overtime, and they win the game. They're living on a prayer right now. And I think Iowa State is the better football team. I am surprised that Texas is the favorite right now. That probably moves throughout the week, I would think. And probably Iowa State becomes a 1-point favorite by the end of the week would be my guess. But we're picking it as Texas being a 1.5-point favorite. I'm with you. I think Iowa State outright wins the game. So I'm taking Iowa State.
Well, OU has since jumped Iowa State in both polls. So a lot of times, you see the CFP kind of match up a little bit more towards the AP. So could that be something that they think, hey, we want to be ranked up there higher. We beat them. We feel like we're better than them. So we need to go out and take care of business week in and week out. And they can't have a slip up if they want to, meet OU again there in Arlington.
Right. I agree. Okay. So our next game is going to be Nebraska at Iowa. Make sure that's right. Yeah. Nebraska at Iowa. Iowa, 13.5-point favorite. I just think that they've got something I haven't seen from them in a long time, especially on offense. And they're able to put points on the board like I haven't seen in, like I said, a while. I don't think that this one's even close. I think being at Iowa, I think they run away with it. Nebraska is just, they got to find something before next year. And they got to fix some problems that they have. They are playing better, but I think ultimately Iowa runs away with this. I'll take Iowa to cover.
Yeah, Nebraska losing to Illinois this last week, 41-23. They beat Penn State. Iowa this last week beat Penn State 41-21. So if there's any kind of difference there, you see Iowa definitely got the better of the Penn State game. But they beat Minnesota 35-7. They beat Michigan State 49-7. I think an easy pick here is to take Iowa.
Okay, I'm with you on that one. All right, next game is Notre Dame is a 4-point favorite at North Carolina. So North Carolina is back in the top 25 after falling out. They get Notre Dame this week. It's hard to pick against Sam Howell, but I think Notre Dame's defense is really good. And I think Notre Dame's defense can kind of put a clamp down on that offense a little bit. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover the 4 on this one.
Yeah. The overall line has dropped about 3 points from where it opened. So I guess people think the Tar Heels can keep this one close. Could be a shootout, but this is the best defense that Sam Howell has faced all year. But I think that quarterback Ian Book for Notre Dame just keeps it hot. And I think they stay unbeaten. And I think they cover by a little, but I think that they cover in this one.
Okay. Next game is Stanford at Cal. Cal is a 2-point favorite. this one's just hard to judge because Cal hasn't looked good. Stanford hasn't looked good.
Yeah, both 0-2 teams.
Yeah, so to me it feels like a toss-up. I think Cal's getting the advantage here just because it's home.
Yeah.
You know, the only time I saw Cal was against UCLA, and they didn't look very good at all. So, again, being a toss-up, I like taking the underdog in this one, so I'm going to take Stanford.
Yeah, they usually with a point spread like that, they say take the home team. Mm-hmm. Just based off of what both teams have done so far, I mean, Cal lost 34-10 to UCLA, and they lost 31-27 to Oregon State. Stanford lost 35-14 in their opener against Oregon, and then they lost 35-32 to Colorado. So both teams in the last game that they've played have kept it close, but that was to Colorado and Oregon State, not to powerhouses out here. I don't know. They both give up over 32 points a game defensively. Cal scoring 18.5 points per game, Stanford scoring 23 points per game. That's not a huge difference there. This is just one that I wouldn't I wouldn't even throw it in a parlay, you know.
Yeah.
It's just not one that's very safe, but for picking purposes, who's favored Cal?
Cal by 2.
I'll take Stanford as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I just the scoring margins for both the offense, you know, they've scored a little bit more than Cal, so I'll take Stanford.
Okay. Next one is a rivalry game. Oregon is a 14-point favorite at Oregon State. So I think I got this wrong in there. I did. I put it backwards on the thing. Anyway, whatever. Bottom team's supposed to be the home team. Anyway, yeah. I messed that one up. Anyway, I knew I'd make one of them
Fans
screw
will know.
up. Yeah. So anyway, so this game is being played at Oregon State. 14 points. For the purpose of picks and gambling, 14 points really means Oregon needs 3 scores to cover.
Yeah.
By all intents purposes. So the rivalry games, you never know how those are going to turn out. And the fact that it's at Oregon State, and then I don't have a lot of confidence in Oregon's offense or defense. Their offense, I guess, you know, like I've said, they're old school. They run the ball. They're not going to throw a whole lot, which means, you know, to me, because it's a rivalry, I think Oregon State is better this year than people are giving them credit for. I'm going to take Oregon State in the points. I'm going to take Oregon State in the points. I think they keep it close in a rivalry game. I think they're very underrated right now because the Pac-12 started so late. And I think they're one of these. We've seen so many teams this year who were terrible last year who've came out on fire this year, Northwestern, Indiana, things like that. And I think Oregon State might be one of them again in the Pac-12. So give me Oregon State. Give me the Beavers.
Yeah. I mean, Washington State beat Oregon State by 10 points. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that Oregon can score more than 14. This is a tough one because Oregon's a double-digit favorite for the 4th straight game, and they are 1-2. They're 1-2 in their last against the spread, in that situation, being a double-digit favorite. Mm-hmm. They've won their past 3 meetings at an average of 34.3 points against Oregon State, and Oregon State has covered the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I can't go against Oregon just with history. I mean, you look at other rivalries, I can relate it to Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Just when you have a team's number, year in and year out, you just have their number, and you can do it. So I'm going to take Oregon. I'm going to stick with them.
And for the record, I'm not saying Oregon State wins the game. I'm just saying that it stays a close game. All right, next one is Ohio State, 28.5-point favorite at Illinois. Again, you know, so here's my deal with this. I'm just going to say I'm going to take Ohio State to cover, but I wouldn't put any money on this. I don't feel comfortable with it because what the reason why I'm not like jumping out there wanting to take Illinois in the points is because I don't know what Illinois is going to show up with.
Yeah.
If they show up with the team that played last week, they have Brandon Peters and everybody's healthy and everybody can play, then I really do think Illinois can probably cover the points in this because of Ohio State's defense. But they have been suspect all year. The Illinois that showed up last week is the one that I thought would show up in week 1 against Wisconsin. So they're too up in the, they're like a bipolar team, and you don't know what's going to happen with them. So give me the Buckeyes to cover 28.5.
So I'm seeing that. Did you say Brandon Peters?
Yes, quarterback at Illinois.
I'm seeing that they've got Coran Taylor as their passing leader so far.
Well, it's because Brandon Peters missed like 2 games with COVID.
Okay.
And so now he's back healthy.
Okay.
And he played last week and lit him up. Like, that was the offense I expected from Illinois all year long.
Yeah. Ohio State hasn't covered the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Definitely questions on the defense, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's won the last 5 meetings by an average of 33 points. And I think they could keep that rolling. I know that, at some point when your offense is just scoring so much, there's just a point in the game where the other team just gives up. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't see Illinois covering within that 28.5. I think 33, historically that being kind of a number that sticks in my head.
Yeah.
So I've got Ohio State to cover.
Okay. Next game, Texas Tech is at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State a 10.5-point favorite. I mean, after what Oklahoma did to Oklahoma State, Texas Tech has an offense that can be explosive at times. And to me, I don't know. This one's up in the air for me because I don't know. Both these teams, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And would Oklahoma State, are they going to be able to bounce back after just a beating they took against their rival in a year they thought, this is our year?
Yeah.
I mean, OU's got a redshirt freshman quarterback. This is the year. OSU returns all this experience, and they just got throttled.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
And so the good thing for Oklahoma State, it is a home game. Texas Tech they've dropped games where they should have won, the Texas game being one of them. But, what's going to happen here? To me, I would not put any money on this game whatsoever. I just think you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
For the purpose of picking, I want to take Oklahoma State to cover the points, but I don't feel comfortable with it.
Well, and 2, Oklahoma State could win by 10,
right.
And be in complete control of the game.
Right.
So Oklahoma State lost to the Sooners again, and they are 3-2 straight up the week after losing to the Sooners the past 5 seasons. And the past 3 games have been one-score games.
Yeah.
So I think that Texas Tech does pull within 10.5. I don't think they win. I think that Oklahoma State uses this as a game to kind of tune some things up. Mm-hmm. I mean, those guys, I don't know, at some point do Tylan Wallace and Chuba Hubbard, do they just kind of, say, all right, our dreams are dashed?
That's the other concern this point in the season.
Or do you play for the draft? I mean, because they've got to start showing something.
Yeah.
I know Chuba Hubbard got kind of nicked up in that game. We saw L.J. Brown, kind of take over. Is it L.J. Johnson? I forget his last name. But anyway, I'm right on one of those.
And these guys all came back to win a Big 12 championship. They all came back with playoff hopes.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's dashed right now.
Yeah.
And so these guys don't have a lot to play for, and this is the time of year where guys start dropping and say, I'm going to prepare for the draft.
Yeah.
I don't know if it happens here, but I don't know what Oklahoma State's going to be looking to play for, and if Mike Gundy's going to be able to keep them motivated. But I will say that Texas Tech, they're not a great team.
Yeah, they're not the same. This isn't the Cliff Kingsbury, Red Raiders. This is, a different team. But I think they've played well in some games here through the year that I think they could keep it within 9-10 points.
So you got Tech.
I'm taking Tech.
Okay. Next game is Oklahoma is a 10.5-point favorite at West Virginia. I'm not picking against OU at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they are on a roll. This is what they do every year. They struggle at the beginning of the season. They end up on a tear at the end of the season.
Championship November.
Yeah, and I just think that they're clicking right now. They've got the guys back. The key pieces on their defense have been back for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
I know West Virginia's playing well, and I know they have to go into Morgantown, but I just think that this isn't even close. I think this could be a 25-point win for the Sooners, so I will take the Sooners to cover.
Yeah, Oklahoma's won the last 8 meetings against the two and has scored 44 points or more in the past 6 against West Virginia. I think that the Sooners just keep marching toward that Big 12. You know, they want it, and also CFP comes out this week, and I think they're going to want some style points. West Virginia is always kind of a weird game because there's always so much pregame animosity between the two. I mean, there was almost a fight that broke out between the two a couple of years ago when Sooners went out on the 50, on their logo.
That was when they went to Morgantown. It was snowing. Yeah. And you think it plays in West Virginia's favor. Yeah. They had their quarterback at the time. He was all everything.
Howard?
Forget his name. He was, anyway. Then the Sooners just rolled them. Yeah. Just rolled them big time. I mean, it wasn't even close. Yeah. So, okay, so we both have OU.
I'm taking OU. Yeah, I think they just keep it rolling. I don't think the Mountaineers have near enough. The O-line's starting to play a little bit better. They only allowed, they said that Oklahoma State was the best defense in the Big 12 this last week, and the Sooners O-line only allowed 2 quarterback pressures the entire game. No sacks. Yeah. They're starting to kind of come into form. Their defensive line, I've said it week in and week out, when they're at their ceiling, they play as good as anybody in the country. Their defensive line. Their defensive backs have some work to do. Their linebackers are up and down throughout the entire season, but their offense is starting to come together. It's still up in the air whether Trajan Bridges will be, back for this game, but I think that they're just at this point. I mean, Lincoln Riley hasn't lost a November game yet. I mean, that's impressive in and of itself. Yep. So, I think that they cover pretty big.
Next game is Pitt versus Clemson, and Clemson is a 25-point favorite. Dabo Swinney not happy that the game this past week with Florida State was canceled, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to make a quick comment and make a pick. That's all on him. I'm sorry, but when you have a player all week who is symptomatic, even though he's tested negative, and you let him continue to practice with the team and he travels with the team, then you find out he's positive. Of course Florida State doesn't. They don't know how many on your team is exposed. Clemson may not be able to play in a week or two. Yeah. I mean, they may end up sitting out or postponing, canceling 2 games because of this, because we don't know. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has already had it, but who knows? Yeah. I mean, how many were exposed? And of course Florida State doesn't want to get their whole team exposed to it. So, Dabo Swinney wasn't happy about it. He thinks that it was just an excuse, but it's a mistake on his part. Completely a mistake on his part. So, but Trevor Lawrence is finally back. He's itching to play. Pitt has kind of been struggling lately, and I really think Clemson goes out, and I think they don't take their foot off the gas because I think they got a little bit of something to prove as well. So I think Clemson covers 25.
Yeah, totally. Clemson's had a 3-week layoff, but this last week they just got re-energized with some anger, I think. And Trevor Lawrence coming back, he's like you said, he's itching to play. All these guys are itching to play. They got to get that taste of the Notre Dame loss out of their mouths. So I think they come and they just I feel sorry for Pitt because it's coming at a real bad time.
That's right.
They're not going to want to let up in this game.
Okay, next game is Cincinnati is a 35-point favorite against Temple. Let me say this real quick. Don't bet on this game. So I know Temple's bad, and I know Cincinnati's really good. Cincinnati won last week against UCF.
You think they're getting ready for Tulsa?
No. Well, here's what I think's happening. Cincinnati just won a great game against UCF by 3 points. They now have Tulsa coming up, and Temple is an opportunity. Now, Luke Fickell doesn't think this, but I bet players are looking at this game as a chance to take a break. We're getting to that point in the season where guys are kind of getting tired. They've played a lot. I think Cincinnati's played 7 games, maybe 8 games now. So this might be a chance to maybe take a break. Now, I don't think Cincinnati's in danger of losing this game, but 35, I mean, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Cincinnati wins by 25-28. Yeah. Because these guys might be a little sluggish. They might not take the week as serious as they should. Yeah. And so this, to me, is a trap. as far as betting goes, so stay away from it. However, as far as picks go, I'm not going to go against my Bearcats. I'm okay getting the pick wrong, but I'm taking Cincinnati in the points. But I won't be surprised one bit if I miss this pick.
Temple is bad, but I'll add to that. The Owls have lost their past 4 games by 24 points or more, but it's still a gigantic spread.
Yeah, it is huge. I don't like to bet on anything over 30. Yeah,
Cincinnati is 1-2 against the spread when favored by 20 or more points. You know, all it takes is a play here or there to kind of screw that.
That's right.
So I'm taking the points on this one.
Taking Temple?
I'm going to take Temple. Yeah.
Okay. You'll probably get it right, and I'll probably get it wrong. But it's a
35,
homer pick for me. I don't want to pick against Cincinnati
35.
Right now.
You're going to Temple. You've got Tulsa the week after. Yeah. Just, I don't know. Everything sets up for Temple to win the spread here.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay.
And Cincinnati could win, 44-10, and
they don't cover.
And they don't cover.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Next game. Maryland is at Indiana. Indiana is a 4-point favorite. I will take Maryland in the points because Indiana is a great team, and I think Indiana wins the game.
Yeah.
But Maryland's better than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
And Tua's brother, I can't say his name, Tuwala. I don't know what his name is, but anyway, he's legit at quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think Indiana, you saw their defense was exposed a little bit against Ohio State, although they were able to put a lot of pressure on Justin Fields, forced him to throw, I think, 3 interceptions, and he hadn't had an interception going into that game. So Indiana's defense can force turnovers. They live off turnovers. They get turnovers, and they score off turnovers, and that's how they've been able to dominate their games so far this year. So,
yeah.
But and I think they still win against Maryland. It's a home game, but Maryland's going to be able to keep it close.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too. Maryland's been off for 2 weeks after they had a bunch of COVID hit their program. Indiana's coming off the loss to Ohio State, but they could still make a New Year's Six Bowl. I don't think that they let up, but Maryland can still score 40 points. I mean, they average 40 points per game in the 2 wins before they had to shut things down. So I don't think Indiana covers this. I think that Maryland keeps it close, but Indiana does win in the end, I think.
Okay. Next game is Northwestern, a 12-point favorite against Michigan State. Northwestern coming off the big win against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think they keep things rolling. If this gets up over 14, I might want to take Michigan State. But at 12, I'll take Northwestern to cover that.
Yeah. Northwestern's on a good trajectory at this point. If they just keep winning games, they're in the Big 12 Big 10 championship
with a showdown with Ohio State. More likely,
so. Beating Wisconsin by double digits, I did not see that coming. And Michigan State is turnover prone, so.
Yep.
I don't. It's
going to be a tough day for Sparty.
It will. Yeah. And can they, will they have the patience to wait around if they keep giving up the ball? And I just don't see it. So I'm going to take Northwestern.
Okay. Next game is Colorado is at USC. USC is a 13.5-point favorite. USC starting to click.
Yeah.
Starting to get their feet under them, playing the way kind of people expected at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
To me, I think USC covers this spread.
I do too. Keaton Slovis has thrown for over 300 yards twice now so far. And I think he keeps it rolling. I think the USC defense continues to get better. So I'll take USC in this one.
Next game, Tulsa is at Houston. Houston is a 2.5-point favorite. I understand Houston being a favorite here, but unlike the Cincinnati game where I think Cincinnati takes a little bit of a break, Tulsa knows from last year how bad things can be.
Yeah.
These players are not going to let up.
Right.
They're not. And I think Tulsa wins the game, so of course I'm going to take Tulsa in this.
I think Tulsa wins as well. And Tulsa, they may be down to a third-string quarterback.
That's right, because in the last game, I did forget about that.
Yeah.
In the last game, their first-string quarterback went down with a hip injury in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the third quarter, the backup went down with what was believed to be an ACL tear.
Yeah.
So you're right, they are on the third quarterback.
And the Cougars have won 5 out of the last 6. So
I think Tulsa, though, is a good enough. Certainly, Tulsa's defense isn't affected by this.
Well, and who does Tulsa have after Houston? They've got Cincinnati.
But unlike Cincinnati, they can't take a week off.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think Tulsa finds a way to win the game. They just find a way.
Yeah, I'll stick with Tulsa in this, but it's with that third string quarterback. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Well, I'll say this:
not a confident pick there.
They threw a Hail Mary to get to overtime, and then it was a pick 6 to win the game. So yeah, I guess it wasn't the third, but the third string quarterback threw the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
So give him a little bit of props. Anyway, so are you taking Tulsa then?
I'm taking Tulsa.
All right, next game is Arizona at UCLA. UCLA is a 9.5-point favorite. I just liked what UCLA is doing, although I think Kevin Sumlin at Arizona is close. They're going to get a win soon. They've kept both games, I think, fairly close that they've played. They played USC and they played, I forget who their other opponent was. Excuse me. I'm going to take Arizona and the points. I like UCLA and I love their offense and what they're doing, but something tells me that this might be Arizona's week. I don't know.
Didn't Arizona cover against somebody? Because I picked against them, but I thought they covered, or was that Arizona State that covered against USC?
It was Arizona that covered against USC.
Okay.
But it was,
Yeah, that's right, because they only lost by 4 points. UCLA's looking better. What's the spread here?
9.5.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll take the favorite. I'm gonna stick with UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think that they're playing better at this point.
Okay.
I know we're 2 games in, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right, and the next game, the Toilet Bowl, Penn State versus Michigan. Michigan a 2-point favorite in this one. What do you think?
Man, I'm gonna take Michigan. I know what you're leaning to, because you got to think at some point Penn State's going to win a game, but with Michigan having that just barn burner
against Rutgers,
that quarterback is really inconsistent. Did Milton go down with an injury, or they just yank him?
I didn't see the game, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What I've seen of them this year with him playing is they have not looked very good.
Which was crazy, because he was supposed to come in and just be a
Heisman contender. No doubt the kid's an athlete. Look at him.
Yeah.
I mean, he can throw. He's got a rocket for an arm. I mean, he is one heck of an athlete. But that is kind of more of just because somebody's rated 5-star because they can throw harder than anybody else and they're faster in the 40, it doesn't translate into being a better quarterback.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the argument. People like to throw out about. I think it was somebody for the Patriots, assistant coach this week, made a comment about Tom Brady, about how they were glad he's gone. He's not very good. Whatever. The guy's the best quarterback to ever play in the NFL, and you can't argue with 6 Super Bowl rings. I mean, you just can't argue with that. And so, the best athlete doesn't always translate to the best quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's more than 50% of it is mental and how you process the game, and can you process it fast enough?
Yeah.
And Tom Brady can do that. So, and we're not getting on an NFL kick here, but just because Milton is huge and strong and athletic, it doesn't mean he's going to be a great quarterback.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you're taking Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going to take Michigan. Penn State just gives me nothing.
Yeah.
Does not move the needle for me whatsoever.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning towards taking Penn State, but I mean, I really am going to take Michigan. I think there's just a lot of problems going on at Penn State right now, and honestly, I don't think Harbaugh's a great coach, but I think he's better than James Franklin.
Yeah.
So I will take Michigan covering the 2.
Yeah.
All right, next game is where I lost my place. Kentucky is at Florida. Florida is a 23.5-point favorite. Kentucky got rolled by Alabama last week. Only scored 3 points, I believe, in that game. Got beat by 60. Is that right? I forget the exact final score. I thought it was 63-60. 63-3.
60-something.
Yeah. Florida rolls by more than 23.5 this week. In the swamp.
They lost by 60 to Alabama. And Florida didn't play its best game against Vanderbilt. The past 3 meetings in this series have been decided by 11 points or fewer. I think that Kentucky's defense puts up, somewhat of a fight for a half. But I think, I don't know, 23.5.
I also think the Florida, coming off the games they had recently, when you go into playing Vanderbilt, it's almost like Cincinnati playing Temple this week.
Yeah.
You just kind of think, okay, maybe we can take it easy a little bit, and that probably contributed to them not covering last week.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kentucky I'll take the points here.
Okay. Next game is Vanderbilt at Missouri. This is the one, so Arkansas was supposed to play Missouri. It got canceled. We talked about that earlier. So Vanderbilt, 1-point favorite at Missouri. Not a lot to say about this. I like Missouri at home. If it was at Vanderbilt, I might see the 1 point, but I just think Missouri is better when they're playing at home. So
yeah, what's crazy is this game was supposed to be Arkansas at Missouri, and Arkansas was a 1-point favorite.
Yes.
Now it's Vanderbilt is a 1-point favorite at Missouri. It's a tough one because Missouri is good at covering it at home. They're 3-0 covering at home.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt is 3-0 covering on the road. This one's really, really tough. I mean, 1 point just doesn't tell you a whole lot.
You're basically picking a winner.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to go back to what both teams did this last week. Vanderbilt hadn't won a game yet. Missouri's 3-3.
Vanderbilt lost to Florida.
And Missouri went to South Carolina and beat South Carolina.
Yeah.
For the Florida game, you don't get much separation there. I mean, Vanderbilt lost 38-17. Missouri lost 41-17. So a little swing there. But I like Mizzou in this. I'll take the home team. I wouldn't bet it. Just for the sake of making a pick, I'll take Missouri.
Okay. Next one is Minnesota at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 21-point favorite. I'll take Wisconsin. And Minnesota is just garbage this year. I mean, they haven't shown me much of anything. So I'll take Wisconsin to cover that 21. They're going to be a little bit mad after the Northwestern game.
Well, the Minnesota-Purdue game, I mean, that,
Yeah, but Purdue's not that good. They're overrated this year.
I get that, but they've got some pieces. I mean, they've got a decent quarterback. They've got a couple of really good wide receivers. And Wisconsin just had their playoff hopes dashed. And they've split their hang on. Minnesota has won 2 of the past 3. And they traded blowouts in the past 2. I think it's a little bit tighter. I think Wisconsin wins, but they could win 30-15.
Okay.
So I don't know. I like Minnesota at least to put up some kind of a fight.
So you got Minnesota in the
Yeah.
points. All right. Coastal Carolina, everybody's darling right now. 17-point favorite at Texas State, who finally got a win.
Yeah.
I think Coastal Carolina covers 17.
I do too. I think that this last game was an emotional one. They had to fight and claw their way back. But Coastal Carolina is 0-3 against the spread when favored by double digits. But Texas State is one of the worst teams in college football right now.
Yeah.
I will take the Chanticleers to cover. Texas State, they're just bad.
Okay.
They're just really, really bad. I know they just got their first win, but they're bad.
Okay. Next game, Louisiana at UL Monroe. Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana is a 27-point favorite. If they play this game, I like Louisiana to easily cover that spread.
Yeah.
Raging Cajuns.
Monroe is they're winless at this point. They're 3-5 against the spread. And Louisiana has a shot at the Sun Belt Championship game. 6 of the past 7 meetings have been decided by 1 score or less. and it's a rivalry game. So I like Louisiana to win, but I don't think that they cover.
So you're taking Monroe?
I will take Monroe.
Okay. Next one, Auburn at Alabama. Alabama is a 23.5-point favorite. Roll Tide. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, this one's a difficult one, too, because you never quite know how the Iron Bowl is going to go.
You do this year.
I know Alabama is heading, you know.
Alabama's going to embarrass Auburn. They are going to spear the War Eagle and bury it 6 feet under.
Well, I think that Auburn has enough talent on both sides of the ball to at least be within 20 or 23.5 points.
Okay.
I think that Auburn has enough to challenge for at least a half, but in the end, Najee Harris will carry Alabama. But I don't think that Alabama.
Think they cover?
No, I'm going to take the points in this one.
All right, we are both picking different here at the end. LSU is at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 14-point favorite, and Texas A&M goes way beyond 14 in this win against an LSU team that is struggling right now to survive.
Did Ole Miss, Mississippi State get canceled? Or
I jumped ahead. Dang. Okay. Mississippi State is at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is 9.5-point favorite. You already know my pick for the next one, but anyway. Yeah, anyway. So this game, Ole Miss, 9.5-point favorite. Mississippi State was able to hang with Georgia last week.
Yeah.
I think that is more of an indication how bad
Georgia's
is.
pretty rough, but with JT Daniels, I think I think JT Daniels should have been the one all along. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that might be a little bit of fool's gold.
I got Ole Miss covered.
Ole Miss, the last 2 weeks they've scored almost 60 points. I just think that their defense is terrible, but they have an ability to just put points on the board against lower than average teams.
So you got Ole Miss?
I'm taking Ole Miss for sure.
Next game, the one I skipped to, LSU, Texas A&M. Texas A&M, 14-point favorite. Again, Texas A&M rolls past 14. LSU is really kind of on the ropes this year, just hanging on by a thread. They got a lot of issues, legal issues, everything going on down at Baton Rouge. 180 from what they were last year as a national champion. Texas A&M, they can't afford to let up. They got playoffs in their sights. They're just on the outside looking in. I think A&M rolls easy in this one.
I think LSU has enough to at least make a game of it. TJ Finley coming off his best start in a 27-24 win against Arkansas. Arkansas is a little bit better than they have been in the past. And Texas A&M's been off for 2 weeks. So I think maybe a little bit of rust and LSU playing a little bit better. I think they keep it at least, Texas A&M wins this one, but I think 14's a little bit steep. So I'm going to take LSU to cover.
Okay. Georgia is a 21.5-point favorite at South Carolina. I believe South Carolina put a chink in their armor last year when Georgia was, on a roll.
Yeah.
But South Carolina just come off a loss to Missouri. I don't think they can pull that off again. But I am going to take the Gamecocks to keep within 21.5, especially after watching Georgia play Mississippi State last week. Because, JT Daniels or no JT Daniels, Georgia is not what they've been in the last 5 years. They just are not. And so they win the game. They don't cover 21.5. I
think so too. Georgia could win, 35 to 20. And it'd be, spoil everybody's everybody's bet.
Absolutely.
There. JT Daniels has taken over for the Bulldogs, but I don't know. I just don't see it at South Carolina, which can get pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. I see taking the points on that one.
Okay. That is it for Week 13 picks. A lot of games there, and we'll see how we do next week.
We'll see how many games even get played.
How many get played, yeah, because I'm sure there's going to be more cancellations before it's all said and done. So that's it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like this video. Always leave your comments. I'm sure Buckeye fans will have a lot to say this week.
Oh, they still do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting notifications while we were
Okay. Well, you know, it is what it is. So I just call it like I see it.
Apparently, you're not a Buckeye fan. So.
Well, you know what? I am, but I mean, look, I'm sorry, but in the past few weeks, it's like, I mean, I've been pretty right on with my analysis and what I think, and with picks. I mean, you know,
the true fans, there's realist fans, and then there's the fans that if you don't say everything 100% pro that team, you're a traitor to that program.
Buckeye fans ran Kirk Herbstreit out of Columbus.
Yeah.
I mean, he moved from Columbus to Nashville.
Oh, because
he couldn't deal with it, because they didn't like if he said one thing negative.
Yeah.
They were down his throat, and it's just, I mean, Buckeye fans are kind of crazy.
No team is perfect. I mean, LSU came as close probably last year to a perfect team.
Yeah.
But no team, every team has its flaws. So.
Yeah. Prayers to Joe Burrow.
Oh my gosh.
Season ended with that knee injury, and prayers for him. Hope he comes back. He's an Ohio kid. He's not far from where I grew up in Ohio. So everybody in Southern Ohio loves him. We root for him, and so I hope he has a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
So. You have anything else before we close out?
I do.
Once again, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, comment, and definitely have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in the next show. Take care.